everyone, and welcome. With me today is beloved President, Mr. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Mr. Roosevelt, you were loved for many things. Your New Deal legislation helped America rise from the devastating Great Depression. Your war strategy as Commander-in-Chief during World War II led to great success. You were so popular, in fact, that you were in office for a record 12 years. However, Mr. Roosevelt here is not perfect. On February 19, 1942, President Roosevelt ordered that the military had power to exclude any or all persons from military areas. These military areas were the entire West Coast, and the people who were banned included 115,000 Japanese Americans, as well as some Americans of German and Italian ancestry. This was titled Executive Order 9066. They were ordered to pack up their belongings and sell their businesses and property. Then, they were relocated to their respective relocation areas. These centers were scattered around the plains and mountainous regions of the United States. The reason stated for this was military necessity. Due to recent Pearl Harbor bombings, the government decided they couldn't trust anyone who lived on the West Coast and had Japanese ancestry, as well as some of German and Italian, and deemed them threats. But these people were not threats. 62% of the internees were American citizens, and the rest had their lives and much of their families in America. However, because of their race, they were labeled as dangerous, inferior, and barbaric. They had no choice in being relocated, and their basic rights were taken away and violated. That is injustice at its finest. The camps were no vacation either. The Japanese Americans were allowed to bring little belongings and were not provided with much once they had arrived. All internees who were over the age of 16 were required to take a loyalty survey to prove themselves worthy. One of the questions on the quiz said, "Will you swear unqualified allegiance to the United States of America and faithfully defend the United States from any or all attacks by foreign or domestic forces, and forswear any form of allegiance or obedience to the Japanese Emperor or any other foreign government, power, or organization?" This question is unethical. It is asking those who are not citizens, because the government would not grant it to them, to lose all ties and citizenship with Japan. This would cause them to become a countryless people. Another question on the survey asked, "Are you willing to serve in the armed forces of the United States on combat duty whenever ordered?" This question is simply appalling. The government took their rights, businesses, and homes away, yet you ask them to serve a country at war? In what world is that fair? The main ethical problem with this order is that there was no just cause in taking away a certain group of people's rights. They committed no crimes. The just cause given by the government was simply racism and giving to the hysteria that was caused after the attacks on Pearl Harbor. Now, President Roosevelt is here today to make sense of the situation. He is here to apologize publicly on behalf of himself and on behalf of the American government. Mr. Roosevelt, whenever you're ready.
The matter for which I address you, the American people, tonight is not lighthearted. In fact, with a very heavy heart, I have come to apologize to the very people I have failed. On December 7th, 1941, the imperial nation of Japan attacked the United States at Pearl Harbor, leading us into the depths of war. In the wake of that attack, fear took a hold of the American people. Mass hysteria began to ferment in our minds and clouded our perceptions of our fellow citizens. I gave in to that hysteria, that panic, and proceeded to strip away the rights and dignity of thousands of American citizens. On February 19, 1942, I signed Executive Order 9066, an action I shall forever regret. Executive Order 9066 gave military officials the authority to ban any citizen from military areas, which would then be determined to be the entirety of the western coastline of the United States. This power would be used to force over 100,000 Japanese Americans from their places of work and their homes. Several thousand German American and Italian American citizens were also forced from their homes. These Americans and their families were forced into isolated camps hardly fit to accommodate them. The dislocation and degradation of thousands of American citizens was encouraged due to groundless fear and enabled by my great mistake. I shall never cease to regret signing that order. Through my actions and poor decisions, I failed all of you. As the President of the United States, it was my duty and obligation to champion the rights of every single American. But I failed to do that, and instead forced a world of injustice upon our neighbors and friends. I signed away your rights, the very rights that you are entitled to as American citizens, the very rights you are entitled to as human beings. These are not our principles. I failed my legal duties, and as well as my moral duties. From the panic and fear, we created barriers, stripping away your dignity as human beings. No human being should have to endure being treated as a criminal when no crime has been committed. No human being should have to explain to their children why armed men obstruct their view of the world. Because of my decision to sign that executive order, many of you had to endure years of your lives in a caged separation, treated as a threat when you pose no danger. I cannot justify your relocation and the discrimination you were forced to endure. Repayment will be given to victims of my actions in the form of money, but I regret that no amount of money will ever right my wrong. I hope that our nation, and in fact the entire world, can learn from my poor judgment. I hope that we can all work consciously together towards a better, more tolerant, and understanding world. I hope that we can learn so that no human being shall ever again have to endure such degradation. In closing, I offer my deepest apologies for my decision, one that will live in infamy.